Welcome everyone, and Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Happy 2021. We are super excited for our second webinar on behalf of the RISE program, and we thank each of you for joining us and for continuing to serve the community in New Jersey as first responders as the COVID pandemic continues and as we continue to offer support to each and every one of you. We are really excited about today's webinar. Uh, we have bi-monthly webinars provided by the RISE program, and this is our second one, which was created specifically for New Jersey first responders that continue to selflessly support the community during the COVID-19 pandemic, day in and day out. And for that, we are grateful. Today, we'll be talking about the application of self-awareness in these trying times. Our webinar is entitled First Responder Tactical Tourniquet, the application of self-awareness in trying times. My name is Ravi Maharaj, and I'll be your host for today. Throughout the program, if you have any questions or concerns, whether that be technical or any type of support, we invite you to chat in the Zoom chat. You can ask me directly, and I'll definitely be able to support and offer anything I can for this webinar. I'd like to now turn it over to our host. We have a great program, and I'd like to introduce Kelly Montesano. She is a firefighter, she is an EMT, and she is a member of the RISE team. So Kelly, take it away.
Thank you, Ravi, and hello everyone, welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. We are excited to have you with us and to show you the program that we put together for our first responders. Please feel free to chat in our chat box to say hi and where you are from, or any comments or questions you have along the way. New Jersey First Responder COVID Line is part of the Rutgers National Call Center. We are part of New Jersey Hope and Healing, which is a FEMA-funded project that addresses the emotional and behavioral health needs of New Jersey residents concerned about the COVID-19 pandemic. RISE program is specific for our state's dedicated first responders. Next slide. Here is our team and the faces behind the phone lines, the ones sitting with you during support groups, and here with you today during our webinar. We are staffed with the first responders just like you, retired and active during the pandemic. We have over 100 years of combined experience working in law enforcement, fire, EMS, and our armed forces. Next slide. Here are the 4 primary services that we offer here at RISE: peer crisis helplines, webinars, which you are part of today, virtual support groups to allow you to come together and talk to one another, and our database of resources and outreach programs to connect to you while you're serving everyone else. Next slide. So this is our UPenn model, a team this is the UPenn model. It's a self-awareness, self-regulation, mental agility, connection, strength of character, and optimism. Next slide. A team of resilient minds has come together and created a program called Resilient Minds on the Front Lines to bring tools, knowledge, and skills and instruction to assist you in a time of need. This team is dedicated to helping those who help others. Let's take a look at this webcast, Journey of Resilience, where Buddy Johnson discusses the process of learning how to become resilient, starting with the first steps, self-awareness. After this webcast, we are going to hear from police officers, firemen, and vets impacted by the pandemic in the front lines. Let's meet Buddy.
I'm Buddy Johnson, retired captain of the Georgia State Patrol, and currently I'm a county administrator over in Grady County, Georgia, or Cairo, Georgia, just above the Florida line near Tallahassee. I'm also a lead consultant and trainer for Tea and Blue Conglomerate, which is a business my wife and I started. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm very excited to be a part of this program, the Resilient Minds on the Front Line, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to come out and give a little bit of information towards the resiliency training. Today, my job for the next 8 minutes or so is learning how to become resilient, the process of learning and the fact that you can learn to become resilient. And that's the first thing we want to start with. Resiliency can be learned. Resiliency is a large set of different skills, and that's important for you to understand. It's not just one thing. It's not a catch-all. You don't read one book on resiliency and you have it. You have to grasp all the skills that go with it. So it's a large set, different skills, and like all skills and traits, it can be taught, It can be learned, practiced, improved, and eventually it can be mastered. Now, I love this particular illustration because it helps explain how resiliency works for us. You've likely heard some of the other illustrations, such as the resiliency toolbox or maybe the Batman tool belt. These are all the same concept. So whatever works for you is great. For me, it's the Swiss Army knife. I like that. And the point is that we have to understand that resiliency is made up of many, many different tools that can be used for specific or general stress relief issues. And it's really important to grasp this. If you don't get anything else out of this message today, no one tool will stand alone. No one skill will stand by itself. You must have different skills to handle the different stresses in your life. And the more skills you learn, the better prepared you're going to be for whatever life throws at you. Now, in this particular illustration, you'll see that the knife is opened and you have the different skills in it. And that's why I like this. So you've got the logical thinking skill, ABCs. I have the blessings, the gratitudes I may need to go to, checking my playbook. That's a big one. Sometimes the playbook that I may be using doesn't work for the stress that I may be dealing with. So I may need that particular skill to go to find a new one. Physical fitness, diet, mindfulness, and yoga. I want to stop on yoga just real briefly and make a point here. When you're looking at these skills, and there's so many of them out there, there's hundreds of them, there's going to be some that may not fit your wheelhouse or maybe you're not comfortable with. And I just urge you to give it a chance. My personal issue with the yoga was that I had this cognizant, this bias. I thought that yoga was about wearing these tight pants and doing funky stretches. Well, this body's not made for that. And what I realized after some really persistent instruction from some really good instructors over the years who finally got me to do it was that there's so much more to yoga. It actually entails many, many of the other skills of resiliency. It actually goes into that. Mindfulness, meditation, all these things. It turns out I need it. So don't throw out a skill
if something
because you
happens,
think it's not going to
because the
fit.
insurance, you have
Give it a shot. Give it a try. You may find out that there's some really good tools inside each one of these skills that you can use. So, yoga was one for me. Other things may be for you. Sometimes things don't work. If you're not happy with it, by all means, go on to something else. But make sure you give it a chance. Character traits are a big part. Purpose, when, what's important now? That's part of the resiliency training. Meaning making, meditation. Meditation stands on its own. So we certainly want to take the time to grab those skills. But just keep in mind, resiliency is not about one thing. It's about hundreds of different tools we can use. And however you want to illustrate it's fine. But the Swiss Army knife works good for me. So what are we talking about here today? Learning to be resilient. What's the first step in learning to do any skill? Well, the first step is awareness. We have to be aware, in this case, of our negative stressors in our daily lives. In order to be effective to learn a skill, you've got to have drive and you've got to have need for that skill. And awareness of our negative stressors gives us the passion and the drive and that need to learn the skill of resilience. So the first thing you have to have is awareness of your stressors. What is going on? And you have to say, I've got this happening in my life, this stress, and that's the first step, is awareness of it and the fact that you need something. And that moves us to the second step, and that's acceptance. See, now that we're aware of the stress in our lives and the need to wrangle that in, we must now accept the concept of resiliency and its contribution to our future success and maybe overcoming those negative stressors in our lives. Just being aware is not enough to truly learn these skills. And here's an example. I'm aware that to be a great football player, I need to train day in and day out to become proficient and to be successful at it. But if I reject the training opportunities that are given to me to become a great football player, then I'll likely fail to learn the necessary skills to make me a great or even a subpar average player. If I don't take the skills that are given to me, it's no good to me. So I have to accept it. So I must accept the skills, training, and how it's presented to me and move to the next level which is learning those skills. So when I have acceptance and awareness, that's the first two crucial points of learning any skill of resiliency. All right, so that's going to take us to the next step. Now that I've got the drive and it's time to actually learn the individual skills. Now, I like to equate this to going to the hardware store and buying tools. So we don't just buy everything at one time when I go down to the hardware store. We should get the tools necessary for whatever job it is that we're planning on doing that day. Because if you go in and buy all the tools and you take them home with you and you put them in your tool shed, here's the thing, you're going to use the ones you need, and over time, you're likely going to forget that you've even got these other tools because you're not using them. You didn't need them yet. And it's too much information at one time. It's too much to learn at one time. So I want to get the tools I need at that moment to deal with the stress that I have. I want to find what works, and I want to hone those skills. And then just like the football player, I want to practice them day in, day out. I want to work through those skills and become better and better and better until they become, and this is important, until those skills become habits. Because when that skill becomes a habit, I've achieved my goal. I've achieved the goal of being resilient. So I want to take them a few at a time, learn them, get them working for me, and then the important part is move to some more. After I've kind of mastered some of those skills, let's look after some more and get as many on our tool belt and our toolbox or on our Swiss Army knife as we can. Because the goal of the day is making these skills become habits in your life. So here it is in a nutshell. Learning to be resilient is about taking care of yourself so that you can take care of those you care about the most. And I'll say it again. Learning to be resilient is about taking care of you so that you can take care of those you care about the most. So in summary here today, resilience can be taught through awareness, acceptance, learning, practicing, assessing, and improving. Awareness of the issues that affect you negatively, accepting the training and resiliency is needed, learning of the different skills and techniques of resiliency, practicing daily those techniques in order to make those habits, make them habits, and assessing and improving the skills each time you use them. Slowly but steadily increase those skills over time. I appreciate my short time with you today. I hope to get some more time with you. Again, I'm Buddy Johnson. If you have any questions, any needs, anything you come up with, visit me at my website, jcbuddyjohnson.com. It's easy to remember, jcbuddyjohnson.com, and you can send me a question. And if I don't have the answer, I can assure you I can get it for you, and I'll get back to you. A huge thanks to Resilient Minds on the front lines for their support, their hard work, and their courage of getting resiliency message out to everyone. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Cop to Cop, our national best practice peer support program for over 20 years, joined the New Jersey Attorney General to partner in the state's resiliency program for law enforcement. 200 Master Resilient trainers and 10 Cop to Cop RPO peer liaisons completed the New Jersey Resilience training a week before the pandemic. Resilience officers received covert outreach calls from their Cop to Cop liaisons to offer assistance with significant success. 1,000 calls later, let's hear some highlights in this partnership.
I want to recognize the valor of the Fairfield Police Department and the way they live the concept of being their brother's keeper. During a critical incident amidst the COVID-19 emergency, the Fairfield Police Department Resilience Program Officer called Cop to Cop because he recognized his brother and sister officers were in distress. One word to describe the Fairfield Police Department is unshakable. The Fairfield Resilience Program Officer talked to Cop, explaining that he noticed the stress in his brother and sister officers and realized he had to do something to support them as they had been involved in a stress-related incident with a shooting on top of COVID at the same time. Together, the RPO officer and the Cop liaison coordinated a virtual critical incident stress debriefing to actually work through a conference call because we weren't able to meet face-to-face. I was honored to be joined by the Cop peers as we led this debriefing virtually, assisting officers involved in this alleged suicide by cop shooting while juggling the stress of the COVID-19 pandemic. During the virtual session, I was struck by the way the officers described the stress and isolation as they tried to manage their own health and well-being because of the pandemic and manage the trauma of the tragic shooting event. One word to describe the officers and the RPO from Fairfield PD is altruistic. They're the living version of the definition of the word altruistic, which is defined as unselfishly concerned for or devoted to the welfare of others. Although the officers were grateful, saying that myself and the Cop to Cop team's support was powerful and effective for them, I will never forget the sound of their voices between the silences as they described how they felt trying to serve and protect during chaos. We are forever grateful. In valor, there is hope.
Don't ever underestimate the impact that you may have on someone else's life. My name is Brian Gillespie, and I retired from the Manasquan Police Department with over 20 years of service as a detective, a juvenile officer, community policing officer, and patrolman. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and I previously served as a supervisor for our Vets for Warriors program. I'm the band manager and the snare drummer for the Monmouth County Police and Fire Pipes and Drums. Currently, I serve as a supervisor for the Cop to Cop program. I would like to recognize the Patterson Police Department for their continued relationship with Cop to Cop. The Patterson Resilience police officer called Cop to Cop requesting a critical incident stress management debriefing due to a suicide by cop incident. Officers were dealing with grief and trauma and also reported possible COVID exposure. Cop to Cop conducted the debriefing with officers and all agreed to ongoing peer support. One word I would use to describe these officers in RPO would be compassionate concerning the incident and the ongoing stress involved. RPO support collaboration, the same Patterson Resilience police officer again contacted Cop to Cop requesting another critical incident stress management debriefing. He saw the need for the debriefing after a specialized unit lost a member due to COVID, the ongoing funeral escorts they were a part of, as well as the 2-year anniversary of the death of another unit member. Many of the officers discussed being positive for COVID themselves. They felt isolated and they were experiencing grief while feeling ill. Feedback from the officers were very positive on the benefits of the support, and many continue to receive our peer support. They expressed relief and gratitude for the services provided. Another word to describe these officers and the RPO would be tenacity, as they exhibited the quality of determination and persistence through their ordeal. In valor, there is hope.
I want to recognize MRT RPO Erin Garman of the East End Police Department in Burlington County. She developed a wellness program for officers and spouses using Zoom meetings during the COVID crisis. Her goal was to help them reduce anxiety through meditation and relaxation techniques. She also arranged for local psychologists to be available to them for counseling support. Her ambition was endorsed by the Chief of Police, and the program has been well received by officers. This RPO engages collaboratively with Cop to Cop and is willing to explore ideas to support her officers. She acts without fear and has a great deal of initiative. She is open to suggestions from me, and we speak weekly to evaluate her progress and effectiveness. Because of her enthusiasm and action, she has had great partner success. In valor, there is hope.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Matthew, verses 5.9. My name is Anthony Woodson, and I worked in law enforcement for 37 and a half years. I'm a retired Deputy Chief of Police from the city of East Orange. I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, North Vietnam. I am presently a peer support specialist with Cop to Cop. I would like to recognize the Glen Ridge Police Chief and the men and women of the police department. The Glen Ridge Resiliency Officer Program requested a critical incident stress management debriefing. Cop to Cop peer support and clinician conducted a virtual CISM debriefing based on the trauma of one of their officers who suffered a heart attack after receiving the news he tested positive for COVID. The officer was resuscitated on scene by officers from his agency. The chief, superiors, and many officers were diagnosed with COVID, making the department overwhelmed by the pandemic. During our ongoing support and follow-up, Cop to Cop was notified that the officer had away. The chief and several officers agreed to ongoing peer support to manage the grief. This tragic line of duty death was recognized by several police departments and the news media. The chief remains steadfast in resilience and leadership, even though her health, her family, and her officers were impacted with the worst nightmare coming true of losing her officer in the line of duty. In valor, there is hope.
Ready Marine, which provides housing for 127 veterans and their families in Boston, partnered with the Center for a New American Security to study 100 veterans in Massachusetts. Let's take a look at what they found.
The pandemic has claimed many victims, created even more struggles, and perhaps that challenge to rise up is no greater than in a community of veterans. Brighton Marine, which helps provide housing for 127 veterans and their families who live on this campus in Boston, along with the Center for New American Security in Washington, put together a study of close to 100 veterans in Massachusetts. The study was planned before the pandemic, but interviewing had to go virtual. And among what they learned is that COVID has exacerbated an already often challenging situation. Three key findings veterans say they struggle with are the veteran benefit application process, navigating multiple offices for resources, and direct financial assistance during the pandemic. I think a lot of people are concerned with the COVID. There's a lot of anxiety, and we're going to come out of it, and we want to come out of it in a position that we're in now to serve veterans, to support veterans on housing, health, social services, and I do believe that there's more work to be done throughout the Commonwealth. And so while there is more work to be done, there are fewer people to assist. You may not be surprised to know the number of veterans is declining in Massachusetts, but by how much? Perhaps 35% over the next 10 years. In Brighton, Josh Brigadier, WCVB News Center 5.
Let's take a minute to hear from some firefighters about the vaccine.
It's your choice. You want to make things better. For me, it was the best choice. I can't force you or tell everyone get the vaccination. I understand there's a lot of apprehension, I understand, but it's my choice and I had to do what's best for my family. So just overwhelmed, and that's where the tears came from, just overwhelmed, thinking about it again, just praying and having a faith to know everything is going to go well. So if I get a uniform on next week, then I will wear that proudly. But if it saves, our people and what's going on, then that's how I feel. This is just my truth. It's not me trying to, again, be a poster child for anybody. This is just what I want to do, so my heart tells me to do.
I think the most important thing for me to say in all of that is I believe in the vaccine, and that's why I'm getting it today. I want to show all of our members, anybody in the community that may think there's something wrong with it, it's not safe. I'm going to take it today. I think that's what the message we heard from everybody else. And I'm actually looking forward to it. This is a great first step on our recovery. I feel great. It felt like a very minor shot. And the process was smooth. It was fine. The questions are easy. I signed up for the vaccine tracking online so that I can get I can give feedback and everybody can track the symptoms so everybody will know about it and know that it's safe.
Wow. So we just saw some great video, and we're going to have Cherie Castellano, our director of the National Center for Peer Support, offer a few reflections.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ravi. Thank you, everybody, for being on. It's so exciting for us to launch this RISE program and try to offer support related to the impact of COVID on all of you as first responders. It's sort of our way of saying thank you, or trying to do more for you the way you serve everyone else. I think what struck me about looking at all these videos, I mean, I loved the accent and the reflection on, that first, Resilient Minds on the Front Lines video about self-assessment, which, like Kelly talked to us about, was one of the main things we understand is a key to resilience. So if today we're sort of thinking about self-assessment, I always think about, as a first responder, my husband is in law enforcement, I'm a wife, everybody's different than when they first started, right? So the fireman or the policeman or woman or the military person you were when you were in training, or the academy, or when you started out, is different who you are 10 years later, and then again when you approach retirement. And it also can be affected in terms of who you are related to COVID and what's going on in your life. So I think if we start with this idea of self-assessment as something that we need to keep real, we need to sort of be forgiving to ourselves. We sort of want to be able to do that self-assessment as a check-in, and use all that toolkit kind of cool stuff that was talked about. But really, self-assessment is key, especially in times of disaster and trauma. I think the other things that I am so blessed by is the work with Cop to Cop and the resilience officers, and what we saw of the heroic kind of responses constantly from law enforcement on the front lines, dealing with COVID, losing their own brother and sister officers, and responding to suicide by cop incidents and all kinds of civil unrest. So just a lot of challenges that they overcame. So we loved making that Valor video where we got to give shout outs to specific officers and departments. And we'd actually like to do that with firefighters and EMS and military also. So I'll have that be our next checklist. And then, as we think about the veterans and how they're struggling to get resources, which are tricky and hard to do anyway when it's not a COVID time, and how that isolation we heard about in our earlier webinars can really trigger post-traumatic stress disorder from their experience in the military, it's complicated. And so in terms of self-assessment, you just want to do those kinds of checks in, if you're a veteran or in a military role. And then for the firefighters, talking about vaccines, that's all we hear about now, vaccinations and how people feel about it. And again, it's very personal. You have to do your own self-assessment about what you're comfortable with, and we all have to respect each other's opinions in that way. So having said all that, I loved participating and being with you, and keep chatting in. And thank you so much, Ravi and Kelly, for doing such a great job. And I'm going to kick it back over now. Because I think what's interesting about what we do here at Rutgers is we always talk about resiliency and taking action, right? Not just learning, but what can we do to change things and be stronger. And so there's a video we're about to look at that's called Stop, Drop, and Roll. That's just going to take 90 seconds. But it reminded me of when I was little, and I would be in awe of the firefighters who would come into school and tell me about Stop, Drop, and Roll, and think about how heroic they have been to me, my whole life. And so, but let's think about this in the context of resiliency and strength right now. So let's go to the videotape, Ravi.
I'm going to share with you today a brief mindfulness practice that can help lower stress and support resilience throughout your day. And to do so, we're going to use a phrase that we're all familiar with from school, which was stop, drop, and roll. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be stopping, pausing, dropping attention into the body, in the felt sense of the body, present moment, and rolling out the welcome mat to notice what's here with a kind, curious attention. So let's practice this together. So the first step is to intentionally pause, to stop. Then we drop our attention into the felt sense of the body. You can do this now, feeling the sit bones in the chair, soles of the feet in contact with the floor, touch of air on the skin. We're dropping attention into the body, dropping attention into this moment, present moment, and we're rolling out the welcome mat, just kind of noticing, well, what's here? Fatigue, agitation, enthusiasm, restlessness, apprehension, just whatever is here, we're bringing a kind, curious attention to it. So we stop and we drop into the present moment, into the felt sense of the body, and we roll out the welcome mat.
All right. So thanks everyone. So far, I think one of the beauties of the 90 Seconds of Resiliency series is that it literally just takes 90 seconds. And we all know as New Jersey first responders, whether you're en route to the crisis or you've just been released and you're on your way to the next one, whether you're eating through your break, It literally just takes 90 seconds to start your day, to end your day. Even if you're en route and you're chatting with your colleagues, with your partners, we can all do this. So Kelly is going to put the link of that video into the chat box so that you have access to it. You can look at it. And if you click on the series, there's a playlist of 90 seconds of resiliency videos that are all about just what we had talked about: awareness, practice, and learn. And the more that we do something, it's muscle memory, it's brain memory. That's where we're able to continue to build our resilience day in and day out. And now it's time to hear from you. We have created these webinars with you in mind, with the first responders in mind. And what we're going to do now is we're going to share a Zoom poll. It will appear on your screen very shortly. And these are anonymous. So we ask you to look through the questions. There are 6 questions. What we're going to ask you to do is, once you see it, when you answer the first one, you'll have to scroll down to get to the second question. So take your time. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to give you a couple of minutes. I'm going to launch the poll now. And if you have any comments about the questions, or if you're thinking about something, definitely feel free to chat in the Zoom chat. But I'm going to launch the poll now.
All right, thank you. Hope you guys all enjoyed the survey. It took, it was a little second for us to, kind of do a little self-care assessment for us. So let's see, take time to hit the pause button during a call or situation, maybe stop and think. It looks like pretty split. It's good that we do see some people sometimes do that. That's something, maybe we can all work on, because like we did discuss today, this is the first step of self-awareness, and it's how we build our resiliency toolbox, like Buddy described. So it's good that some people, see that they're working on this. I found that there's some activities I like to do. That's good. Always, if there's something that we didn't put on there that you would like to share with us that you do, maybe there's something new hobby or something that we can pick up on and learn from one another, because that's what we're here to do with each other. So I like to see that everyone's getting out and spending time to cope with their stress and anxiety. So that's good stuff. I like it. Since COVID pandemic began, I take time to become aware of my emotions and feelings. Okay, sometimes that's good. I like to see this sometimes and often rather than never or rarely. This is a challenging time, and it is an increased stress load on our already stressful jobs as EMS, first responders. So it's good that we're able to, take time and become more aware of this. I speak to someone about my emotions. I think a lot of us, do this more than we probably don't even realize, whether it's at the coffee table with one another or in the ambulance after a call. So it's good to see that people are doing that often. I like that. When challenges that are due to COVID arise, I view them as opportunity to grow and handle them in a positive way. Again, often. I know a lot of us, like to look at the positive. It's why we do this job. A lot of us started these careers with a purpose, and it's good that during this pandemic, we're still not forgetting why we're doing it. I know I haven't, and let's push through this. Hopefully the light is here at the end of the tunnel. I keep track of how COVID is affecting my emotions regularly. Again, sometimes this is great. This is great stuff. I hope that Cherie, you feel happy with these answers, and we can together build some resilience, and we look like we're going to get through this. So back to you, Ravi.
Amazing, amazing job. Thank you, Kelly. It's such cool information. You're so right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank everyone for participating in the poll. I think, one of the beauties of these webinars is hearing from the participants, sharing information, and learning from each other. So we really, really value your feedback and your participation. So we're about to wrap up, and I really just wanted to first and foremost thank you for joining us, and thank you for being part of webinar number 2. Tune in next time. As we mentioned, we have 2 webinars a month, and our next webinar is entitled Managing Resilience and Stress. As you can see, there's a theme here. It's to support the New Jersey first responders, and it's to make sure that we continue to offer the support that's not just deserving, but that's needed. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but there's so much more that each and every one of you are doing day in and day out, and we're here to help and support and to share. We also wanted to offer some information about who we are and where you can find us. We want you to talk about this program, to share with your colleagues. Come onto our website, risefirstresponders.com. We're also on Instagram, we're on Facebook. And of course, the pillars of our program is that we have these webinars that we're glad that you're here. We have support groups, and we have a call line. We have a program in which when you call, you are speaking to someone that understands. You are speaking to someone that knows what it's like to walk in your shoes and to respond to the crisis and day in and day out. So, definitely give us a call. We are here to support and to be there for you and your colleagues. And I'm gonna put a survey in the chat box now. The biggest part of this, like we talked about, is we've developed these webinars for you, for each participant, with you in mind. And we want to continue to make them better. We want to hear from you. So we definitely welcome what's working. We definitely want to hear what you'd like to see change. It's a very quick anonymous survey. So I just entered it into the chat box. You're welcome to click on it, and it should take about a minute or two to complete. We're also going to send a follow-up email again with this survey so that we can make sure that we are supporting each and every one of you to the best way that we can. And of course, finally, we really just wanted to say, as I get my mouse on my screen, there it is. We really just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being there for us, for the community, for New Jersey. Thank you for being the ones that respond to the crisis and to really help our family and friends. There isn't enough words to say how we feel about all of the New Jersey first responders. We're here to support you. Our phone number is on the screen, 833-237-4325. And definitely spread the word with your colleagues. We understand with being on schedule and being on call, some of you might have planned to jump on and came on because you were working or you had an emergency to respond to. So share this with your colleagues. Have them jump on in 2 weeks. And most importantly, let's rise together. So take care. Thank you, everyone. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.